Welcome to the Bookish Mind, Season 4, Episode 15. Today, we unlock the fourth law of behavior change from Atomic Habits by James Clear. The secret of making habits satisfying so they actually stick. And that's exactly what we're diving deep into today. This final law, make it satisfying, it's not just tacked on at the end. It really is the glue holding that whole habit loop together. The key to making behaviors actually last. We're going to explore why our brains are just, well, wired for that immediate gratification, and crucially, how we can sort of hack that wiring, how we can make lasting change feel, well, actually good.
That's exactly right. The real insight here isn't just, oh, rewards work. It's that immediate rewards are what the brain understands best for repetition. It really boils down to what James Clear calls the cardinal rule of behavior change. What is rewarded is repeated. What is punished is avoided. Simple, right? But it's so fundamental to how we learn, how we adapt, really how we stick with anything. Keep that rule in your head because we're going to add a layer to it soon that really shifts things.
Yeah, okay. And to really make this concrete, let's go back a bit. Late 1990s. There's this fascinating public health story involving Stephen Luby. He travels from Omaha, Nebraska, all the way to Karachi, Pakistan. Huge, bustling city. And he's focused on these squatter settlements, the slums, places where, maybe 60% of people lived in pretty basic housing. Often no waste removal, no reliable electricity, not even clean water sometimes. Conditions were tough. Sewage in the streets, a real breeding ground for disease.
Absolutely dire. And these conditions, unsurprisingly, led to a lot of illness, diarrhea, pneumonia, and impetigo. These skin infections were just rampant, especially among kids. Luby and his team saw pretty quickly that, look, just washing hands can make a massive difference. But here's the kicker. They found out most people already knew this. Information wasn't the barrier here.
Right. So it wasn't about needing more posters or lectures. Something else was stopping people from doing it consistently. What was it?
It was the consistency, exactly, that was missing because the act itself just wasn't, well, satisfying enough to become automatic. People might wash hands, but maybe quickly, or just one hand, or they'd forget before cooking. They'd say it was important, sure, but very few actually made a habit of it. And that's why Luby's team did something smart. They partnered with Procter & Gamble.
P&G. And that turned out to be crucial, didn't it? They started supplying Safeguard soap to these neighborhoods. And this wasn't just, basic soap. Luby himself said in Pakistan, Safeguard was a premium soap. People really like it. It lathered up nicely, smelled great. Suddenly, washing your hands felt a little bit nicer, a bit more pleasurable.
Luby totally nailed it when he said, I see the goal, not as behavior change, but as habit adoption. That's a key distinction. He compared it to toothpaste versus flossing. Think about it, that minty taste, that fresh feeling from toothpaste, that's a strong positive signal. It makes brushing stick. Flossing often lacks that immediate sensory hit, right? So it's way harder to make it a consistent habit. P&G weren't just giving out soap, they were crafting a positive experience.
And the results, wow, pretty staggering. Within months, they saw huge shifts in kids' health. Diarrhea rates down by 52%, pneumonia dropped by 48%, and impetigo, that skin infection, down 35%. Just incredible numbers.
But what's really amazing is the long-term effect. They went back 6 years later. 6 years. These households hadn't received free soap for over 5 years by then, and yet over 95% still had a designated hand washing station with soap and water ready to go. That shows you how sticky a satisfying habit can be. That little bit of pleasure, the nice smell, the good lather, it teaches your brain, hey, this is worth remembering. Do this again. It's a powerful feedback loop. Game-changing for public health, really.
That Karachi story just lays it out so clearly. But okay, let's bring it closer to home. We see this principle everywhere, don't we? Like chewing gum. How did that become such a massive thing?
Oh, chewing gum is a perfect example. It had been around commercially for ages, but it didn't really explode until Wrigley came along in the 1890s. Early gum was often kind of bland. Wrigley changed the game by adding flavors, spearmint, juicy fruit. Suddenly it was tasty, it was fun. And then their marketing was clever. They pushed the idea of a clean mouth feeling, refresh your taste. So you had the nice flavor plus this sensation of freshness. Tiny immediate rewards made the habit super satisfying, and boom, sales went through the roof. Wrigley became huge.
Yeah, and toothpaste is similar, right? The manufacturers hit gold when they added flavor, spearmint, peppermint, cinnamon. It's funny because those flavors don't actually make the toothpaste clean better. They just create that clean mouth feeling, making the whole brushing thing more pleasant.
Yeah.
I actually know someone whose husband switched brands just because he liked the stronger minty aftertaste of another one. It really shows how much that immediate feeling matters.
Exactly. And the flip side is just as true. If something isn't satisfying, we avoid it. Remember that story Clear tells about the woman with the difficult narcissistic relative? To deal with him, she just started acting incredibly dull and boring whenever he was around, gave him nothing interesting to latch onto. And guess what? After just a few times, he started avoiding her because the interaction was so unsatisfying for him. It all comes back to that cardinal rule, doesn't it? Rewarded gets repeated, punished gets avoided. Good feelings build habits, bad feelings tear them down.
That's a great illustration of the avoidance side. Okay, so back to building the good habits, there's this really important detail about satisfaction we need to dig into. It's not just any satisfaction, it needs to be immediate, right? And you might be sitting there thinking, okay, why? Why immediate?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It feels like our brains are kind of operating on two different clocks sometimes. The answer really goes way back, deep into our evolution. Think about the world our ancestors lived in. Scientists call it an immediate return environment, like animals on the plains, right? Most actions had instant consequences. You hunt, you eat now. You see danger, you run now. Actions led to very clear, immediate results, often directly tied to survival.
Right. And contrast that with life today. So many things we do. The payoff is way down the line. You work hard all week, maybe get paid in 2 weeks. You go to the gym today, you might feel fitter next year. You save money now for retirement, decades away. We're living in a delayed return environment.
And here's the mismatch, the sort of evolutionary lag. Our brains, structurally very similar to our ancestors from, say, 200,000 years ago, are still largely wired for that immediate feedback world. We can plan long-term, obviously, but our default setting, it prioritizes right now. Modern society, with all its complexities, smartphones, retirement plans, that's all incredibly new in the grand scheme of human history. Maybe only 500 years old in terms of being predominantly delayed return.
So our ancestors were all about immediate threats, finding the next meal, getting shelter now. Long-term planning wasn't the main focus day to day. It made total sense then to value instant gratification highly. Survival depended on it. And thousands of generations living like that wired our brains to prefer quick payoffs.
Exactly. Behavioral economists have a term for this, time inconsistency. Basically, how your brain values rewards changes depending on when you get them. We naturally value the present much more than the future. Usually that's logical, right? A definite reward now is often better than a maybe reward later. But sometimes this bias towards now causes us real problems.
Yeah, and suddenly so much makes sense. Why do people smoke knowing the cancer risk? Or overeat knowing about obesity? Or take other risks? Once you see it through this lens of the brain prioritizing immediate rewards, it clicks. The bad consequences of bad habits, they're delayed. The rewards, they're immediate. Yeah. Smoking might cause cancer years from now, but it cuts stress right now. Overeating is bad long-term, but that food is tasty in this moment. Pleasure now often outweighs potential pain later.
Every habit has outcomes spread across time, and they're often, well, mismatched. Bad habits feel good now, feel bad later. Good habits often feel like effort now, feel good later. The French economist Frédéric Bastiat summed it up beautifully. He said something like, "It almost always happens that when the immediate consequence is favorable, the later consequences are disastrous, and vice versa." He noted the sweeter the first fruit of a habit, often the more bitter the later ones. That hits on a deep truth. We're often not fighting a lack of willpower. We're fighting our brain's ancient programming. The trick isn't just more discipline, it's designing habits smarter to bridge that time gap.
So it's like present you is constantly hijacking the plans of future you. We all want to be that healthier, wealthier, happier future version of ourselves. But when decision time comes, instant gratification usually wins. Present you wants the comfort, the taste, the ease now. So if that's the case, how on earth do we make good habits stick? Or are we just doomed to lose this battle against ourselves?
Not at all. This brings us right back to that cardinal rule, but with a crucial update. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided. Our love for instant gratification actually tells us something important about success. Most people chase those quick hits all day long, the path of delayed gratification. It's less crowded. So if you're willing to kind of engineer some immediate rewards for your good habits, you'll find that less traveled road is often way more rewarding in the end. Research shows people better at delaying gratification generally do better in life. Better test scores, lower addiction rates, handle stress better. Knowing this is one thing, applying it is the real challenge.
Okay, so how? How do we actually do that? How do we train ourselves to wait, to value future you, without it feeling like a constant struggle? This is where we get practical, right? Turning instant gratification to our advantage. And the key thing, Clear says, is feeling successful, even in a tiny way.
Hmm.
That feeling of success is like a signal, hey, this paid off.
Yeah.
Worth doing again.
Exactly. Ideally, yeah, the reward for a good habit is the habit itself. You exercise because being strong feels good. But when you're starting out, it often feels like all costs, no benefit. You've been to the gym maybe 3 times, you don't feel stronger yet. It takes months before you see results, before it feels intrinsically rewarding. So in the beginning, you need something to keep you going. That's why immediate rewards are so vital. They keep you excited while those bigger delayed benefits are still brewing. We're really talking about reinforcement using an immediate reward right after the behavior to make you want to do it again. The ending needs to be satisfying.
That makes total sense. Okay, but what about those habits where you're trying to stop doing something? Like cutting down on impulse buys. There's no action to reward at the end. How do you make not doing something feel good?
Great question. This is where you get creative. You have to make the avoidance visible. A really cool strategy is to set up a separate savings account. Label it for something you really, really want, like a new leather jacket fund or a trip to Europe fund. Then, every time you resist an impulse purchase you'd normally make, transfer the money you would have spent right into that account. Skip that fancy coffee, $5 in the fund. Didn't renew that subscription, $10 over. It's like setting up a little loyalty program for yourself. Seeing that savings grow towards something you want feels immediately rewarding, much better than just feeling deprived. You're literally making doing nothing feel satisfying.
Oh, I love that. That's so practical. I heard about a couple who did exactly that. They wanted to eat out less, cook more. They called their savings account Trip to Europe. Every time they skipped a restaurant meal, they moved $50 into the account. End of the year, they had the cash for their trip. It just reframes the whole thing.
It really does. And it doesn't always have to be money. Think about micro rewards. Maybe after you finally tackle that email you've been dreading, you let yourself listen to your absolute favorite song. Or, after a really focused work block, you take 5 minutes just to stretch or breathe deeply. The point is engineering a small positive payoff right after the effort. But there's a really important warning here. You need to pick short-term rewards that actually reinforce the identity you're trying to build, not ones that clash with it. Like, if your reward for exercising is a giant bowl of ice cream,
Yeah.
well, you're sending mixed messages, right? It kind of cancels itself out. But maybe your reward is a massage. That's enjoyable, and it reinforces the idea of taking care of your body. So the reward aligns with your long-term goal of being healthy.
That's a crucial point. Alignment. So eventually, as the real benefits kick in, feeling more energetic, less stressed, seeing actual progress, you won't need those external rewards as much. The identity itself becomes the reinforcement. You do it because that's just who you are now, and it feels good to be that person. The habit becomes part of you. So incentives get you started, but identity keeps you going, and that immediate reinforcement, it's the bridge that gets you there.
Exactly. It bridges that gap perfectly.
So wrapping this up, this fourth law, make it satisfying, really feels like the missing piece for making habits last, doesn't it? Making it enjoyable, even with tiny immediate wins, helps it stick. Whether it's nice-smelling soap, minty toothpaste, or watching that savings account grow, these little bits of immediate pleasure make the habit something you actually want to repeat because, yeah, change really is easier when it feels good.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Think about one good habit you're trying to build right now. Just one. How could you engineer a tiny, immediate win? A small moment of satisfaction right at the end of doing it, maybe even today.